Good evening. The name of this program this evening is Let's Live with Thurman Greco, and we have a very, very interesting program, a presentation this evening. I have been spending the last few weeks, when possible, at the Mowers Meadow Market selling my book, I Don't Hang Out in Churches Anymore, and also selling Healer's Handbook. And it's a very, very interesting place. The people are wonderful. The customers are fun.
They are.
It's a lot of fun. It's a really, really neat place to be. And while I was there, I met a very interesting woman and was reminded that this is a place where we need to introduce yourself. So I have brought this evening Tonianne, and Tonianne is going to tell us in a few minutes here a little bit about herself, because Tonianne is a psychic who is offering services at the Mowers Meadow. So how did you find Mowers Meadow?
I just had come to New Paltz, over the years, many, many years we've been coming to New Paltz. And when I left here about 8 years ago, left New York, went to Key West and started doing readings there. I had tried to find venues for my work, but at that time, being a psychic was not as welcomed as it is now, and it's such a short time to make such a change. So I was surprised when I came back that there was so much going on here, and I did some readings in Rhinebeck, and I did some readings in Fishkill, and then I did some readings in Milton, and so now I'm doing a few different places, and I was trying to get into a shop here in Woodstock, and that didn't happen right away. So I came across, someone said to me, why don't you go over to the flea market and do readings there? Someone who's been selling jewelry here for 20 or 30 years. So I tried that, and it worked, and the Mowers, first of all, are lovely people. They're very welcoming, they're very open. And so I just kind of set up shop there in the beautiful woods, and sometimes I'd take my shoes off and dig my feet into the ground, and that feels really good. It's a beautiful setting, and the people I'm meeting are really wonderful. So I do readings there at Mowers Flea Market. And then I'm doing readings. I have been doing readings at Jody's Hands of Serenity in Fishkill. She's a lovely, lovely person, and the vibration there is so beautiful. So I've been connecting to really pleasant people here, bright people here, open people. And in Fishkill, New York, I'm connecting with very spiritual people. And then also at the Galleria Mall in Poughkeepsie, I'm connecting with Sunna, who runs this beautiful traveling Buddha shop. And when you walk in there, you're just amazed at how much stock is in there and how many exotic pieces they have. So I'm doing readings there some Sunday evenings, sometimes Friday evenings, here on Sundays and Saturdays when I can, and also at Jody's sometimes Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
So you're working Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You've got almost a full week.
Yes.
And you've only been here a very short time.
Yes, it has built. It has built nicely.
It was waiting for you.
It was.
It had to have. I mean, really, when you start something from the get-go.
Right from kind of scratch.
You have to spend, a couple of years getting people to know you have a name,
Right.
So how do we reach you?
You can reach me by calling 845-764-1360. And now I have a brand new website that a young woman from Hawaii with whom I became friends in Key West. This is a lovely woman. And she said, let me build you a website. And I have no clue. I would have no clue how to do that, but it's beautiful. And it's called Readings with Tonianne. And so I'm going to be doing phone readings, in-person readings, gallery readings, that kind of thing, all kinds of different things, different modalities.
Well, I think we better get on the bandwagon pretty quick or we won't be able to get an appointment. How long do your readings last?
Well, at the flea market, they just kind of get a taste because, first of all, I can't do very long readings or I'd lose a whole line full of people. So in Key West, I would do 15-minute readings and 20-minute readings, and it's something similar there. Actually, I'm doing 30-minute readings at the Galleria Mall. But at Jody's shop, I do a half hour and an hour, but they've made appointments ahead of time. Or today I was there and people would come in off the street. I'd put my big sign outside and people would come in off the street. And so my readings typically at a place like the flea market, where you're not going to have a whole line of people waiting for you. They don't have that kind of patience. They're out shopping. So then I do the smaller readings, the 20 minutes, the 25, the 15 minutes, the 25 minutes, that kind of thing.
And what kind of questions do people bring to you?
Oh, well, first of all, I'm a psychic medium, so they want to hear from their relatives. So what happens is I use Kabbalistic Numerology as an introduction, as some people use tarot cards. My sister was a brilliant psychic. She used tarot. And so I take their date of birth, and I just take the first letter of their name, or I might do the whole name if I have time. And that tells them why they came to the planet and what their strengths are.
Wow.
And everything I do is strength-based. On my brochure it says, and on my card it says, this is about love. Because that's what it is about. The whole universe is about love, if we can remind ourselves of that. And
yes. We need to work on that.
We do have to work on that one. But the thing is that it is about love. So I don't get negative information. I don't give negative information. And, the worst thing that could happen is someone, I might say, well, your mom seems to be having some stomach trouble. She might need an antacid or something like that. But what I give people, what I hope to bring is hope. And let them see who they truly are, because we are all divine beings having this physical journey on this planet. So every time we sleep, every time we meditate, every time we pray, we're in our divine self. Then we wake up as puny humans and start all over again. We just learn our lessons that way. So they ask about, people will ask, well, can I talk to my father? Can I talk to my mother? If people aren't familiar with the process of connecting with spirit, I ask if I may show it to them. And so that everyone on the planet is psychic, every person, whether they choose to believe it or shun it or think it's a bunch of woo-woo. Well, it is a bunch of woo-woo. It's fun. And the readings are fun. We laugh a lot. We carry on, just like you and I do when we're talking, when we're talking at the flea market. And it's just uplifting, and that's the whole point. Let them see who they truly are, because we're all divine. We are divine spirits. We're a part of God. Not everyone embraces that, but that's who we are. That is truly who we are. So they also might ask me, I seem to be good with numbers for houses. I see your house selling for this or this, and sometimes I'm right on the mark, or I might be 5,000 off one way or another. And I can tell them if they're not asking enough. I can tell them where there are vortexes of energy coming into their house, which is a good place for them to meditate. I speak to live people too. Someone says, my sister-in-law hasn't talked to me in 10 years. And so I do a little bit with her numbers, and then I can kind of get a feel, and I put my hand on the paper to get a feel of who this woman is and why she's doing what she's doing. And then, spirit always comes in. They just always come in. After the introduction, after I give them their numbers and we talk about that, they're always surprised at how accurate the numbers are about their personalities. They're very surprised by that.
Wow.
So after I do that, then we open up, the spiritual piece. And I said to a friend who had a house in Hawaii, your front steps need work. And she said, oh no, my husband just fixed that. I said, I'm just telling you, they're dangerous. Someone could fall off those steps. There's something underneath, a piece that's rotted. And she called her husband, and sure enough, he said, yes, I have to fix that.
Oh my goodness.
I'll see you. You have a leak in the back bathroom upstairs, or whatever. I see these things that seem kind of silly, but they just come. Spirit is showing me, check the tires on your car, the right front is a little bit low, some things that are, not life-threatening or anything, but just, it does two things. It lets them be careful about what's going on in their surroundings, and it kind of confirms that, hey, she's here. She's kind of on the mark.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, do you do distance work?
Oh, yes.
Telephone?
Oh, yes.
Whatever?
Yes. Oh, yeah. What I do when I'm home and I'm doing distance work, I was just explaining. I never had explained it to a friend before, but she had a reading. She's a neighbor, and she was kind of blown away. So she said, "Well, what do you do if you're just on the phone?" And I said, "Well, I'll tell you the truth. I hunker up. I get a nice warm blanket. I sit in my bed. I meditate before every reading. And I just get very, very comfortable. And spirit comes in. I had a wonderful meditation today with so many colors, and Hiawatha came to me. And I hunker down, and I get real cozy and comfortable. And then the person calls me at the appointed hour, and it just flows
From there.
from there.
Because you're in your space.
I'm in my space. I'm comfortable. I'm warm. I like being warm. When I meditate, I warm myself with a blanket. Well, sometimes you get cold when spirit's around too.
That's interesting. Do you know why it's either warm or cold?
No.
No, it just happens?
No, it just happens. And I was working also in Connecticut, and at a place called The Bridge. And I was doing readings there. I go to different places where people ask for a psychic or ask for me personally. The people who brought me there were people who knew me. I had been reading for one young woman for 3 years now, telling her all about her business, what she had to do, how much money it was going to cost, how much money she was going to take in, how much her business would improve, that kind of thing. And she was opening an office there. So I went there, and I did a few readings for the staff, and then I was on this crystal bed. Have you ever been on one of those crystal beds?
No.
Oh, they're gorgeous. And it's warm. They turn down the heat. So I had done, say, 5 readings. They turned down the heat, and I was just going to rest for a little while. And they closed me in this room, and I'm laying there, and I felt the presence of someone else, and spirit came in. He was a young man who came in through the glass window, and he was kind of, you could see he felt nervous. So I started talking to him, and I said, "You lived here for a while, haven't you?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "So you're kind of between worlds right now?" He said, "Yes, I feel like I'm stuck here. I feel like there was something I had to work I had to do here." And well, we talked for a while, and I said, "I see that you came in." I walked past a room upstairs where they had, the place wasn't finished in that area. And I said, "What I see is you coming into that upstairs right-hand room in the back corner, and you're clinging to the wall. Why are you so fearful, honey?" And so we talked for a while, and I said, I didn't ask him his name. And he told me his name was Michael. So at the end of the period of time for my rest on this wonderful bed, which made my meditation so beautiful, my friends came to the door to greet me, 3 of them. And I said, "I was speaking with Michael, a young man named Michael, and he has brown curly hair." She said, "He's here every day." So spirit is so wonderful, and everything with spirit is so simple. It really is very simple. And I'm so glad that I learned this. I did counseling for many years, like I said, 30 years. I was a screener for a mental health unit, had people brought to me in 4-point restraints and handcuffs. And I was able to help people after 9/11 in Orange County, New York. And I counseled families of firemen and families who lost people very, very hard. And then I had a private practice with some CSWs, and I just have a bachelor's. But they hired me because they believed in me. They believed in what I could do during the interview. So anyway, so I counseled those families, and we had the private practice, and things always went well. I love doing counseling, but after all that time, I realized that this is a great way to bring healing to every person, because we all have something.
Absolutely.
We all have something. And the physical, I believe, is manifested by the emotional.
Right.
We connect to people with our hearts, and we manifest with our emotions.
Right.
And so for me, this is a way to reach the lay person or the person who doesn't want to go to counseling, and usually, thank God, by the time they leave, they're smiling, we're laughing, they believe in it. You can see in their eyes that they have come for that time to think more highly of themselves and believe that they can do what it is they want to do. That's the feeling I get. Now, I haven't polled people to see how long that feeling lasts or that belief lasts, but I know it's very real.
Well, and that's so, I think, so important now.
Yes.
Because it seems like more and more the people that I'm running across, I don't know whether I'm coming in touch with them because it's my stress and I'm seeing this, or whether this is just the way times are. It just seems like everybody needs to feel better about themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, it's like there's less self-confidence.
Uh-huh. Well, look at what's happening to us.
Yeah.
Look at what's happening to us. People, I don't know where things started before this, can I say administration, before this time. But people started moving away from each other. I don't like fist bumps. I want a handshake. I don't want to just text. I want to talk. And my sister says to me, "Oh my God, you're on the phone more than any person I know." I said, "I communicate with people. This is what I do.
Yeah.
This is what I love." And I want hugs. I don't want somebody to say, "Okay, high five." No. I think we're losing some of who we are, and our kids, unfortunately, are connecting through technology.
Well, the thing about, I believe, is that when technology's fine, talking on the phone is fine, all these things are fine, but texting puts up some kind of a barrier, I think. I could be wrong on that one.
I have friends who just text.
Right.
They don't want you to ever call them.
No.
And I love these people. But I'm saying, and I see them being more distant. And then when you gather with people who are doing Reiki or people who are doing healing or whatever, all that love is right there bubbling all around.
Yes.
All of that is happening, and you feel so warm. I tell people now, when I give them a reading, I'd like you to learn Reiki. People who are lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Because I said every time you give a reading, the reading comes, every time you give a healing, the healing comes through you. And so look at that, you're connecting on this heart level.
Yes.
Yeah. And when you do Reiki shares, you walk into a room and you're automatically hugged and loved.
Yes.
So when people are lonely, I tell them, learn Reiki and do that. And it's a healing for them, and it's a healing for the people they work on and the people they work with. And it's an environment where spirit is so present.
Well, and I think one of the nice things about Reiki is that as a practitioner, we don't always have to know what direction to go in, because Reiki knows where to go.
Yes, they do.
Like when you work, spirit works with you.
Yes.
You don't have to tell spirit anything.
Right. No, they're telling me.
Right.
Yeah, they're telling me.
So when you work with Reiki, Reiki just knows what to say and do.
It does, yeah. And I do Reiki too. We did beautiful Reiki shares in Key West. And I have a whole group of psychic friends who were actually trained by my sister many years ago. And we've stayed friends for 23 years, but now some of them they don't want to work on healing. They don't want to connect to spirit. And it's such a loving thing to do.
Oh, that's interesting. They're not interested in doing that now.
Right, I have to talk them into doing a Reiki share,
That's
and then some of them won't come.
That's very
They've just
interesting.
kind of gone off the path, I guess, which sounds like it's a cult, but it's not a cult.
Are people going within themselves no more now? Are people less likely to reach
connect?
out?
Yes. But it surprises me that it's people my age whom I've worked with for all these years. Why are you closing yourself off? You know? And we have a friend who's unfortunately really disconnecting. And we're all trying to reach out to her and love her. And sometimes, even when she's been very, very strange or distant, I'll knock on her door and just go in and hug her and tell her I love her. Maybe she doesn't want to talk, but I just don't want to walk away from her.
How much of that is depression?
A good deal, but she won't listen. I mean, I do therapy, and she,
Well, how big is depression in our situation now?
Oh, it's much, much worse than it was, because people feel disenfranchised. They feel as though our government and sometimes our schools, and of course the FDA, doesn't care about us. Look at all the ads on TV for the drugs.
Yeah.
And that this may kill you. I mean, you're going to get rid of your pimples, but you may die in the process.
Right.
Yeah.
And somehow that's okay. Yes. But it just seems like we're running up against depression wholesale.
Yes, it's the healthcare system that's being torn apart. How much hope can you have for yourself if you know that you're not going to have what you need to save your life? And it's just saying, where do I go for help?
And there
for
is
many
no
different
place.
Right.
There
right.
is no place.
Right.
I've been writing, and on the one hand, I'm very proud of what I'm writing because
You
this
should
is a
be.
new, well, no, but this is a new thing for me. But on the other hand, I'm describing a situation for which I don't see a solution.
Right.
I see, first of all, because I am interested, homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you cannot separate, or I cannot separate, homelessness from mental illness.
No, you can't really.
And of course, for me, depression is one of the bottom rungs of that ladder.
Yes, it is.
And so we have mental illness, we have homelessness, and then we have this horror with immigration.
Yes, I know. It's as though they're not human. Look at all those children. I can just cry thinking about
Right.
those children who are ripped from their parents.
Yeah, well, and even the ones who are not just ripped from their parents.
Mm-hmm.
They're in this country, and they know that their parents are fearful. They know
Oh,
their
of
parents
course, you
are
can't
afraid.
help but pick that up.
So that's depression,
It is.
and that's fear. And then you have not only the children, but the adults who in themselves are unmoored. They may have a roof over their heads, but they are homeless.
Yes, right.
And I am just now coming to grips. And I've been working at a food pantry. I worked at a food pantry for years. I don't know why I didn't pick up on it then. I did pick up on the mental illness.
Well, they're more threatened now than ever.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. And I guess I just didn't want to deal with it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we deal with as many things as we can. I worked in mental health for years. I worked for programs. I worked for Head Start too. I taught Head Start in Alaska, and I opened programs in Sullivan County for Head Start. And these people were disenfranchised in several ways, but there was always hope there. You know, you had a program that might help you find a job. You know, I did the same thing in Key West with AIDS Help. But the thing is, now everything is being torn apart. Mm-hmm. Whatever little security you had, whatever hope you had, is really torn. It really is. And in that whole mix, too, is the dual diagnosis and the people who are depressed and who are self-medicating with alcohol and drugs, anything they can get their hands on.
Yeah, and whatever they can find at the CVS.
Yes, true. That's true, too, yeah. Well,
vitamins. They go to the, they go to the pharmacy and find whatever they can find.
what we have to do is pray every day. I just read a new book by Wayne Dyer since his passing that he channeled. I think I showed you that book.
Oh,
by
yes, I
Karen
have a copy of that book.
Noe or No, N-O-E with the accent on the E, so I'm not sure how that's pronounced. But he's been speaking about, he says, every day you must pray for world peace. And so I'm doing that now. Every day. We have to. And the thing is, I don't know if you've ever listened to Abraham Hicks.
Oh, I saw her several
I
times.
saw her once. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful being. And brilliant and snarky and funny and just clever. Her delivery is amazing. So anyway, all we can do is, she says, Abraham says, that one person who is spiritual and loving is worth 1,000,000 who are not. That sounds like an exaggeration, but it's really not when you look at whole countries who are about war.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And look at what's happening here with us about pushing for war.
Yes.
So it matters. We matter. And we have to talk to as many people as we can and try to lift them the best we can in any way that we can. Reach them and tell them that they're loving and lovable and worth it, and that we need them, because we do need those people. We need the people who come to you for Reiki and to learn what's your other healing technique?
Reflexology.
Reflexology is a wonderful thing.
Well, I think also now, with the situation being what it is with women, that I think that the news has bubbled up memories that women have hidden for for decades. And I think now it is important to tell every woman, you are needed, you are cared for,
Right.
You are needed to pray for the rest of us.
And I think the stories that are coming out are actually wonderful, painful, but
Yes.
wonderful. That they're having the courage to do this in the face of people who don't really care, many people who don't, but what they're doing is they're making it bubble here and bubble here and bubble here. And so something is going to come of this. Something is coming.
I cannot help but think that as well. On the one side, I am horrified by what's happening.
Oh, yeah.
But then, and I was thinking of Esther Hicks today. She was talking about, and I think that there is a lot of Hitler's playbook going on now. And she talked about the goodness that his wrath created.
Right.
But I am sort of like, it's like, okay, you didn't have the support to tell your story then.
Right.
But you can tell
You
it
can
now.
now. Yes, you can now.
And it's okay.
Yes.
And it's okay if someone says that it wasn't right.
Oh, yeah, right. Of course they're going to say that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But and to have that woman who told her story representing many, many, many others, to me, that is kind of like this bright thing.
Throwing the doors open.
Yeah.
Throwing the doors
I'm thinking of a meadow that all of a sudden has a golden ball. I don't know where I got that.
Okay, wonderful analogy. I like that.
But I see this as an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, it's a battle.
It
There's
is.
no question.
Yes.
But I, as a young woman, if you got raped, if you got accosted, whatever, why bother?
Right.
And if you turned up pregnant, well, it was all your fault anyway.
Right,
You just had the kid, and
Oh my
it was
God.
just,
Yeah.
that's the way it was back, because I'm, old now.
Well, so am I.
But now, women can remember.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we will have some honoring of these women
Right.
and of their stories. I don't know how that's going to happen.
Right. It will have to evolve. I've been talking to some clients and to some friends who were watching that woman's testimony. Thank God I didn't. I don't think I could handle it. And the memories, the painful memories that are brought back to them. And one friend, I asked her, please don't watch anymore, because she became quite depressed.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, right. And what it brought up for them, and then it's denied, and that's such a beyond a slap in the face. But the thing is, as you said, it's out now. It's out. Look at what's been happening even on television news programs that we're hearing about, and with people from all over the country committing these horrific crimes against women. It's just blows your mind, and I'm so glad they're being brought up. I'm just so glad that it's out in the open, because something has to happen as a result.
That's true. I love that. As a result, something will happen.
Right.
Something. Women will remember. Some will get therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Some will work toward this.
Right.
Some will go to marches. Some will.
Right.
And just the inner work that goes from just acknowledging, okay, I was treated this way.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to deny it anymore. I'm not going to feel guilty about it anymore.
Right.
That's huge.
Yes. And it's got to be the same across the board for all atrocities. When I went to college at New Paltz in the 60s, I did a march on Washington, and, other people did, and we sang, "We Shall Overcome," and bars and were thrown out. But it had to come to the forefront, and I was reading from some history from Martin Luther King and John Kennedy, that and some people do readings on the other side. And I recently read, I saw some there's online, and they knew they were going to be killed. They knew they were going to lose their lives.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
But they were fighting for a just cause. They were fighting for right.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they did. I was kind of on the fringes, but I was at the University of Texas. I had a roommate who was in the thick of things,
Mm-hmm.
and she spent some time in jail.
Uh-huh.
I had another roommate who was very, very close with Martin Luther King Jr., and she would go to different conferences. I belonged to the Christian Faith and Life community, which was kind of non-whatever, and you can still find it on the websites. But he knew. They all knew.
I remember seeing an interview of him many years ago saying, I didn't know if this was it.
Yeah.
Last night could have been the night,
And there's a young man out now from the Philippines, Jose Antonio Vargas.
Okay.
Jose Antonio Vargas was brought to this country as a young man, 12 years old, and he was brought with a coyote. But at the time, he was young and naive and didn't really realize it was a coyote. He thought it was a member of the family. He was planted in a relative's home in Mountain View, California. I don't know if you're aware of him or not.
No. Uh-uh.
He has come out several different ways. He's written op-ed pieces in New York Times. He's written op-ed pieces in New York. He's written, for Wall Street Journal. He's written a lot of things. He has worked for the Washington Post. He's worked for the New York Times. The guy is not an American citizen. He does not have papers.
Oh.
And everywhere along the way, he has had to reveal to people that he doesn't have the papers.
Okay.
And he has, if you read his memoir, you can see how he is becoming more and more unmoored. He no longer now has a home. He had an apartment.
Okay.
He had an apartment, and the landlord said to him, "You need to leave,
Okay.
because when they come after you, I can't protect you."
Right. Okay.
So now, he's not only paperless, but he's now homeless.
Yeah. Right.
And I see this happening to all kinds of
I know.
people.
I wish I knew the answer. I know that we create our own reality.
He is.
Seth taught us that in
Yes.
what we spoke through Jane Roberts. I guess, was that in the 80s or the 70s? I get the dates mixed up. But we have to see ourselves protected, and Abraham will tell you that. You have to believe.
Right.
Yeah.
He does not. And people around him and with him no longer see themselves as protected. So what happens? Where do they go for their protection?
I think the only place you can go is to God, is to Spirit, and ask for that, and then you have to see it, you have to imagine it, you have to see it. Because some people will be forced to leave, and some people somehow will not. I don't know what the numbers are. It's such a very frightening time. But I know that Spirit gets us through amazing, amazing things. 23 years ago, I had stage 4 cancer. And I decided that I wasn't leaving. People in my family had passed from cancer. And I had treatment, don't get me wrong, but at that time I was working in the healthcare industry, and they were watering down the drugs for people. I'd go to my bank, and there was this one woman I really liked at my bank, and she said, "I have breast cancer." I said, "I do too." And she said, "But I'm getting treatment," but her hair wasn't falling out.
Yeah, wasn't happening.
She didn't live.
Mm-mm.
My hair came out, and I said, "Okay." It was harder for me to lose my hair at the time than my breast, but anyway, when I was having this treatment, I said to Spirit, "I hope this works." And they said, "Don't worry, whatever you need, we'll put it in there." Because when I was working in the mental health unit, the health industry had decided to take over the world, and they wanted us to send home people who were suicidal.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't want to house them.
Well, they don't now.
Yeah, right. It's gotten much worse. But what I'm saying is, a gray wolf came to me and brought me healing, and a panther came to me, and that gray wolf is with me even today. He was in my meditation today. And we have to see ourselves rising above all this. And this is how we may survive.
So one of the things that we need to do when we encounter these young people, because, at my age, everybody's young.
Yeah, me too.
Who is becoming more and more unmoored.
Right.
It's time for, we're going to sit down and have a talk.
Uh-huh. Right. I do that with people.
And we're going to go within ourselves. Well, it's your job. That's great.
Yeah, I know.
15 minutes or 25 minutes.
Well, I do other readings that are much longer. But actually, I do love, when I was down in Key West, and I was right at Sunset Celebration. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Oh,
it's
yes.
gorgeous. There's a Latin band. There are people juggling fire. There are people painting. There are people making jewelry.
And the cats, the trained cats.
I
Do they
love
still have the trained cats?
Yes, they do. Yes, that Frenchman is a little bit crazy, but anyway.
He was then.
Yeah, he was. Yes, and the thing is, people were there having such a good time, and the 15-minute readings, somehow, I must say, that's a very spiritual community.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's a spiritual community. It's a real mix. But people who had those 15 minutes readings would sometimes or often say to me, "You've changed my life in 15 minutes.
Hey, that's all it takes.
Yeah, but that's miraculous. And I'm so grateful to be able to bring any of this to anyone. Just so grateful to, if I don't do it, I miss it so terribly. I need it. I really, I've come to really need to do this. I can't spend a day without doing it somehow.
Do people specialize in pediatrics?
With this work?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. No one's ever spoken to me about it. I worked with children, with people all the way from infants on up, but my spiritual work was mixed in with my counseling. But I've never heard of anybody specializing in pediatrics. That'd be a great thing to do.
You know?
Maybe somebody out there will say, hey.
You know, because we've got all these kids now.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the jails or whatever those carcels are in Texas or wherever they are has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with the price of rice in China.
Right.
These children are stuck there.
I know. I can't imagine the misery.
And there's no effort to get them out. That's got to be, and I'm reminded now, not now, but when I experience this, when I read about these children and the problems that they have, and they are going to have them for the rest of their lives.
Right.
Even with therapy.
Even with therapy. Yeah, despite it, but maybe they'll get to lead a little better life because of it.
There's got to be some reason that this child was stolen and this one was not. There's got to be a reason.
Right.
And then you look back to World War II and the Japanese internment camps.
Mm.
But even they were humane compared to this.
Right.
You know?
This ice is, I was listening to NPR one day. Frank had it at the flea market. And they were talking about this story about how this woman who was helping people get out of this situation. It had worked for a number of years, and this woman was so connected to her child, and she was doing everything right to get him out, and had all the papers she needed. And finally, the therapist or the woman who was working with them, convinced ICE to let them come and take the child. And they went to take the child, and the child acted as though he didn't know his mother. He sat on a seat with his hands grabbing the bottom of the chair. Mm-hmm. And he wouldn't talk to his mother. He wouldn't look at her. Who knows what had happened to him between the time he was incarcerated and the time his mother got to be in front of him. Mm-hmm. He would not answer her. So I don't know. Horrible things are happening.
You know, I heard a story. They found a noose.
Aww.
The stories are terrible. But they will. This is one thing that I do feel very positive about. 100 years from now, there are books.
Mm-hmm.
And there are writers. Mm-hmm. And right now, everybody that can put
pen to paper
can do this to the computer
okay.
Is got a book going. Yeah. Every newscaster, right. Every journalist, everybody, right. Every wannabe, they're out there trying. So it will not be for lack of information.
No, it won't be.
No one can say it didn't happen.
Right.
You know, which was a strong element in World War II.
Right.
You know, that didn't happen.
Right. Oh, everything is denied.
You know, but I mean, with enough books and enough writers and enough people all saying similar to the same right. thing, you can't get that far off. Is one thing that I do find some consolation with. I don't know, but it's hard. It's hard.
There's so much. It covers such a breadth of subjects and scares and injustices. It covers such a wide range now mm-hmm. that it's overwhelming to think of all of it.
Well, and of course, I think part of it has to do with our age. Mm-hmm. I think when you're 30, you don't really, not that I didn't see, but it's a different thing now. And I realize that this could go on beyond me.
Mm-hmm.
And I am grateful that I have had what I have, but there are a lot of young people now who do not yet have.
Mm-hmm. And may never have,
Right.
because they're stopped in their tracks. Not physically, not because they couldn't learn it, but I was saying to someone the other day, you can't have, I say to a lot of clients, you can't have happiness and sadness at the same time. And someone said to me, a client of mine, I do some counseling, and she said, my parents, they didn't entertain me and they didn't enjoy me. We'd sit together and they'd say, okay, let's make fun of each other, but mainly it was them making fun of me. And she said, my parents I think they came from Italy, and they had so much fear when they came.
Mm.
And I said, when you have fear like that, you can't think of reading your child a bedtime story. Mm-hmm. I used to make up stories for my daughter and my grandson. Make up stories before they went to bed at night. And I so enjoyed that. These people didn't have that, they didn't feel safe within their home anyway in some ways, whatever the deprivation was at the time, or however they came here or whatever happened. And you don't have time, you don't have the feelings for that. So a whole area is missing of that person's life.
Yes.
And so now I'm telling her, you have to mother yourself. You have to parent
Absolutely.
yourself. Which is what happens when you've been through abuse and when you've been through neglect and all kinds of things.
Do you ever counsel someone to just say, I'm not guilty?
That's a good idea. That's a great idea. I'll use that. Thank you.
You know,
It's not my
a woman
fault.
who has had some problems, you're not guilty?
Uh-huh. I do tell them it's not your fault, but I think
That's not guilty.
It is, but I like that. I'm not guilty. Yeah, I like that.
What about forgiveness?
That's a hard one. Forgiveness is such a hard one because sometimes the pain is so deep that, and I have a friend who went through an awful lot of abuse. She's a brilliant woman. She's loving. She's a chaplain for hospice. People can take this pain and use it either way. They can use it to hurt other people, or they can say, I know what pain is. I don't want people to go through it. And she has done her best to forgive the people who hurt her. But sometimes it pops up anyway. You know, it from time to time it pops up, and it's hard to just let go of it. It's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing.
Do you think anybody ever forgives 100%?
I think sometimes they say they do, but then sometimes I'll see them again and they'll say, well, I have memories of that. It's in your cells, you know. I think some people do. I know that for me, I haven't always been able to do that. It's hard. I find it difficult.
I'm writing about forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Because in the food pantry, in 2007, 2008, 2009, people were coming into the food pantry because they had suddenly lost everything.
Okay.
Their home had been foreclosed. There were no jobs in Woodstock.
Right.
We had a situation where there were a lot of famous, near famous, well-to-do, near well-to-do artists, musicians, writers, whatever,
Right.
living in Woodstock. And Woodstock was often the second home. And the first home was New York City, it was
Right.
Paris, Montreal. One guy had Dubai. We were talking.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the bottom dropped out. And all of these people cut the tether to the city, wherever that city was, because that was the most expensive.
Yeah.
And then the next lesson that they had to learn was they were stuck. They were down and out in Woodstock and Bearsville because there wasn't a job to be found among them.
Right.
And they had and then there were other situations. I was just using that as
Right.
an example.
Okay.
They had a lot to overcome
Yes.
because you want to bring yourself back.
Right.
And of course, some of them haven't come back yet. But you still, and not going to come back, but they're still here.
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't even have what it took to get out of town.
Right.
And some of them, the anger was palatable in the pantry
Sure.
for like a year or so. And then after a while later, you'd see it had kind of calmed down. We had, a lot of anger. People
Did you
losing
have
their...
anyone there who could help? Who was did they bring counselors in?
You got to be kidding me.
Well, I mean, it would have been a nice
They
idea.
had one old lady with a southern accent that passed out food and a smile, and that was about it.
Yeah.
We gave a 3-day supply of food that had to last 7 days. And there were no resources. Now, talk about forgiveness. I need to forgive. There were other towns in the state of New York that did provide.
Uh-huh.
And Vermont and New Hampshire. But we had a library, and our librarian was fabulous. And she had the place warm in the winter.
Oh.
The bathroom was clean.
Wow.
And there were computers. Because if you had a computer, you could look for a home. You could look for a job.
Yes.
You could,
Right.
But beyond the food, truthfully, we didn't.
This is just a small town. How much could you provide?
Truthfully,
Yeah.
a lot.
Really?
Mhm.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
But no,
wonderful.
it didn't happen.
Oh, I see. So people weren't willing to pitch in and help their neighbors?
No. It was a different situation. I don't want to, I don't want
Mm-hmm.
We do what we can do.
Right.
And of course, being in the thick of things, all of a sudden, because the pantry had been serving like 20 people a week
Right.
for 20 years, and then all of a sudden they got 300 people to feed.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
We got the food there.
Wow.
But then it was like, where did all these people come from? There were all of these things
Right.
that accompanied that.
Right.
And part of it was denial, part of it was fear, part of it was not wanting to see this, not wanting Woodstock to have a part in this,
Right.
not what, and this was happening all over
I'm sure.
the country.
I'm sure. Yeah, we had food pantries. I was working for Family Empowerment in Middletown. I had run a program for single moms. And so we actually, in that home, we were able to provide food for people. But there were food pantries, and there are still in Cornwall and Middletown and Newburgh and different places.
Oh, yeah.
And they, at that time, I don't remember that was before 95. That was, I guess, the late 80s.
That's when the food pantry system first opened.
Mhm.
So you were right there at the very beginning.
Right, and I would bring food to people in the ghetto of Newburgh, and I would sometimes bring my grandson with me, and he was so sweet. I would say to him, Noah, I'm going to take some of your Pringles for some of these folks. And he said, it's okay, Nana, I don't mind sharing. He is a sweet, he's 17 now. But they were just right there at your car door, ready for whatever it was you could.
Right.
Yeah, and they needed that. He was willing to sell his toys so that he could buy food for them.
Oh, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's who he is. It's who he is even today. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it takes. It takes that giving spirit.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And usually when that first introduction to the food pantry comes around, that's kind of a surprise, to the community as well as the people.
Mm-hmm.
The first time we had more than a couple dozen people coming in the food pantry, it's like, what in the world is this? How
Yeah.
did this happen?
Right.
What is this?
Right.
This can't be,
Yeah.
Wow. We all have things that we have to overcome. So is there possibly, I'm not asking, I guess you can ask for a one-size-fits-all.
Right. I think the
sentence,
word-
a
Oh, but I
one
think-
size
I
and
think the-
fits all
Well, I think-
phrase?
I
Or,
think once you open your heart to spirit, so many things, you can endure so many things. And the thing is to be appreciative and grateful of what you do have. We have to count on that. And during these tough kinds of times, we really have to go within and say, okay, so I don't have a car that has, I might have a car that has 215,000 miles on it, but I have people who love me, I have friends, I have kindness in my life, I can help others in some ways. I appreciate the sunset, and I appreciate, the dogs who come to the flea market, or, seeing a rainbow. My daughter caught a picture of a double rainbow the other day and sent it to me. She said it doesn't in any way really replicate what happened, but it's close to it, So I think we have to let spirit into our lives and recognize what's truly important, in life, and try to bring that to you and to your loved ones. And that's, I think that's, regardless of if we were in a flourishing economy or what we're in right now, I think we just have to let spirit into our lives and see who we truly are and what truly matters. This really shakes you down and makes you think. These kinds of times really make you think of
I like that. I like that. It's a shakedown. It does.
It is a shakedown.
It gets rid of all of the stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. I think that's the very best we can do in any times. I mean, sometimes when everything is flourishing, we don't worry about the poor guy or the woman who's going through things or whatever it is. And so any time is a good time to let spirit join you, and be godlike. As we are all a piece of God, a part of God, and to all recognize that.
So, if we can enjoin with spirit
Mm-hmm.
in our travels,
Mm-hmm.
wherever,
Mm-hmm.
and just not be guilty.
Not be guilty, right? Forgive ourselves. Forgive, I mean, we've all done things. We've all, we're not perfect. As I said, we join with spirit, and we do get into the divinity, and then we wake up as puny humans again and start the next day.
Listen, on that, we're out of time.
Okay.
Real quick, can you tell us your name
Tonianne Ferraro,
and your telephone number?
845-764-1360.
And where can we find you in Woodstock?
You can find me in Woodstock at Maurer's wonderful flea market.
And thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you.
This was great.
Yeah, you told me it would go quickly and
It
be
does.
fun, and it was, and it did.
And it was very uplifting. It was very
I really
uplifting.
enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Love everyone.